Hello, welcome to Scott's Odyssey. Today we find ourselves in a public park managed by the Jefferson County Historical Society in Brookville, Pennsylvania. This site is a religious oddity where one man dedicated to consecrate the grounds by naming over 500 rocks and inscribing into those rocks, as well as birch trees, verses from the Bible. Welcome to the location of the dedicated rocks, or more commonly called Scripture rocks. See you in a minute. Welcome back. If you've watched my videos before, thank you for your patronage, and I hope you enjoy this story of the Scripture rocks. If you're new to Scott's Odyssey, welcome aboard, and please take a moment to click subscribe for more of this journey through Odyssey stories of who we once were. Douglas Monroe Stallman, the fifth child in a family of 8, was born on the Kirkman homestead of Warsaw Township, Jefferson County, Pennsylvania, in August of 1861. His parents, Gabriel and Esther, were farmers of 539 acres, just 5 miles from Brookville. Douglas, like most children of large farming families, worked the farm in his youth. Later in life, Douglas went on to college in Erie, Pennsylvania. After doing some traveling up and down the East Coast, Douglas met his future wife, Marian Estelle Alsobrook. They married and moved to Valparaiso, Indiana, I think I said that right, where Douglas was a teacher for the Lutheran College of Northern Indiana Normal School. It was at this school he met an evangelical faith healer born in Scotland who was relocating from Australia and claiming to be the prophet Elijah. This man was John Alexander Dowie, owner and founder of the city of Zion, Illinois, where he proclaimed a theocracy government of God, by God, and for God. By 1903, Dowie had renamed his religious belief system as the Christian Catholic Apostolic Church. For this video, we're not going to delve deeper into the story of Alexander Dowie, nor the ill-fated misadventures of the prayer duel till death against the leader of the Ahmadiyya Islamic movement, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, and how they both ended up dying within a year of each other. I'll leave that one up to you to investigate. What we are going to get back to is Douglas Stallman and his dedication to graffiti. In 1901, Douglas was in Chicago following Dowie when he received word that his wife, Marian Estelle, had fallen ill after giving birth to his second son, James, and was having complications. Being a believer of faith healing, when Douglas arrived home, he immediately cast out the physician, demanding that his wife embrace the Dowie faith and God would heal her. According to the newspaper's recount, Douglas had thrown a bucket of water upon her and told her to get up, and that a doctor would have to walk over his dead body to treat her. Less than 2 hours after sending the physician away, Marian Estelle died. It's believed that Marian's brother and his friend beat Douglas severely about this. The Alsobrook family immediately took his children away from him and had him arrested on the count of religious insanity. After this incident, the children carried the Alsobrook name and not the name of Stallman, their father. Over 1,000 students of the normal school formed against Douglas, and it is believed that if he had been released from jail, he would have been tarred, feathered, and hanged over his insanity. Douglas Stallman was kept in the county insane ward for some time, and eventually his mother secured his release, and Douglas was brought back to Pennsylvania. Douglas went on a religious walkabout of prayer for personal guidance, and after traveling up through New England, he returned to Brookville, where he was spiritually drawn to a place in the woods. He wrote in his journals that it was there he found 3 large rocks on which he prayed 150 times from 1907 and into 1908. In March 1909, he called a rock Altar Rock, and after the naming, he conducted worship services to upward of 70 people. Several years later, he built a cabin and lived on the rock, where he penned his manuscript for the book titled The Dedicated Rocks. From 1909 through 1913, Douglas found and named over 500 rocks, 4 of which he built chapels on and held services. He stated that each rock had been dedicated the same way a congregation consecrates a church. The names chosen for each rock were based on revelations he received from God. It is believed the birch tree carvings were a manner in which to keep track of debts owed to him, and that those who did not pay them were cursed as defying the will of God. In 1911, a local resident of Brookville, and most likely a member of his religious services, suggested that Douglas inscribe the rocks with their names. Let me know in the comments below if you know of stories and locations such as this one of the scripture rocks. My research is limited only by the information that people don't share openly. Let's break that barrier and let's share the history and culture of who we once were. After clearing the area around these rocks, Douglas began to chisel the names into the rocks, along with verses of scripture. One rock, called the Cursed Rock, alludes to how God is vindicating him by killing off the brothers of Marion, and that the same will happen to Marion's sister unless the children are returned. One rock allegedly has an inscribed complaint regarding the father of a young woman named Mary Gilbert. Douglas felt God had ordained a marriage with Mary Gilbert, and the father of Mary forbade the matrimony. Douglas is recorded as leaving a note behind to the father, letting him know that if God's will is not followed, someone in the house will die. It's important to note that at this time, Douglas was almost 60 years old, and Mary had just entered into her 30s. Okay, this is what I assume happened to a lot of these rocks. This one, you can barely make out what is on here. This rock is the Curse Rock. It says it right there. It's been mostly chipped away. Curse. This here is the rock that he specifically said, God has been calling Gilbert for a long time to become my wife. So far, her own and father's stubborn resistance has prevented our marriage. He ends it on the bottom somewhere, allegedly. How far may we go on in sin, and how long will God forbear? So it's kind of important to know that he did leave a note behind too, where he very specifically identified that somebody in the house is going to die if the dad and the daughter don't agree that the daughter needs to marry him. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. This is a piece of history, but there's crazy, and then there's crazy. Hopefully he did well when he was in the hospital for a long time. The fact that Douglas had received significant donations and assistance in the building of what is now Scripture Rocks Heritage Park suggests that he was indeed well known and appreciated by a good following of people. However, over time, he became viewed as a radical, and his following declined. Although he was tolerated by local officials and Orthodox religious institutions for some time, they eventually felt threatened and saw the preachings of Douglas, such as the world being a stage on which the drama of cosmic redemption is fought between divine and satanic forces, as dangerous to the local residents. So in 1915, Douglas Stallman was again declared homicidally insane and was committed to county jail, which he in turn escaped from by climbing through a window, and he avoided capture by the authorities for over a week. During that time, he drafted threatening letters to more prominent residents within the area. Upon his recapture, Douglas Stallman was remanded to the former Department of the Insane of Western Pennsylvania Hospital of Pittsburgh. later known as the Dixmont Hospital for the Insane. Douglas Monroe Stallman died on August 26th of 1942, age 81, as a patient inmate of the hospital. In 2009, a renewed curiosity into the life and what was now a folk story of Douglas Stallman brought about the activation of the North Fork Chapter 29 Society for Pennsylvania Archaeology, whom would begin a search for these scriptural rocks in order to record them for historical purposes. All told, 150 rocks and their inscriptions were found and recorded in conjunction with the writings of Douglas. During the investigation, additional history of roads, quarries, and other sites that long predated Stallman were also recorded. This is actually not part of the scripture rocks. This here is the Port Barnett rock shelter. When Carnegie Museum came out here in '79 and they were looking for stuff, they found lots of stuff. Gotta catch my breath. All right, so for this outcropping, according to what the sign says, site was recorded with the Carnegie Museum Archaeology Survey of 1979 by Ken Burkett and Ray Fitzgerald as site number 36JE55. Some of the things that were here: most of the diagnostic gypstone artifacts recovered during the excavation are projectile points made of Onondaga chert found in the glacial outwash sediments of the Allegheny River or locally available Jefferson County chert. So we have transitional periods of Native Americans and pre-native, if there's such thing as pre-natives. So where does the sun when I need it? There it is. So aside from this being a interesting geological site with the carvings on the stone and everything, I really am interested in the whole Port Barnett rock shelter aspect of it. I'm going to have to come out and make a whole nother video just for that. But being that we're here, I have to point something out to you. Being that we're here, you need to realize when I came here, what I see is a hole and another hole. We've got holes, and I like my holes. Lots of spiders, lots of gnats. More holes. More holes. Really nice rock outcropping. And we got more outcropping over here. I like the other one because it has deeper holes. All right, we are currently above, I think we're still within territory. Look at that beautiful tree just growing right up on top. Yeah, we'll have to get a picture of that. That's just gorgeous. Let's get back down there. I'm trying to read this rock here, and I was running my finger across it to determine July, what I think is a 4, possibly 1901, and something I don't know what that is up here. Then I came down here and I was like, thou, and then I went shat, S-H-A-T, shat, and I went, yeah, I think he's missing an L. But then my finger came down and I felt this little caret, and down here is the letter L, so it's thou shout. I guess this was a pre-published rock before the editor got done with it, but it came out as thou shat instead of thou shalt. Just thought it was funny, and I point that one out. there's even more written on the back of this. He spent a lot of time on the big rock. A lot of time. And he had a lot of more room. And then down from those two, he turns the page again. All right, so this is on a slant on the hill. And here, he was slanting the other way as he wrote upward. Then down at the base of this, he came over this way. And up here, he came down this way. And all of those appear appropriately surrounded by this interesting image. I'll see if I can't get that image for you. Do some more over here, going up at that angle, and down upon this rock. While I'm doing this, I keep getting distracted by these epically awesome pieces of rock. This is 57, there we go. We have more writing up here. Try and get a higher view. Come back down over to this one. This would be the possessions, and success rock. And here we have Love Rock. Love Rock and Group. Love Rock and Group. And when we come over to this one, we have Hope. And the one with love on it says Group. So Leslie is saying that the three of them go together. I wonder if these are the original 3 stones that he came across in the woods. Before leaving the Faith, Hope, and Love group, came back onto the stone that leads you up to it. And there's nothing written anywhere about it, but I'm telling you right now, definitively, something was carved there. Something was carved into this area here. Makes me wonder if there's more to the story than what we have out there, more than what was said at the insane asylum, more than what was said by the local community and the historians. And there might be a whole lot more to this guy's story. And the community may have come out here and tried eliminating some of the stuff he said. Maybe it was his test run. I don't know. We'll find out. Or we won't find out. One or the other. Okay, so I just came up on this one. This is Courage Rock. This one is just a dedicated rock. It's not followed with any scripture, except for the reference to Josh 5:7, it looks like. Maybe 12:5:7. This is Humility. And it doesn't appear to have scripture below it, but it does appear that it had something below it. I really can't make that out. There's the Blessing Rock. Let's take a look. Big rock, Looks like there was some other things starting to be carved into it, because these patterns are not natural. But whatever it was is not here now. Give you an idea how far away 43 is on the map. If you see those blue things, you can go beyond those blue things, which is the same distance from here to that blue thing, and go beyond that to the next big white rock wall back here. Can you see it? That's where 43 is supposed to be. Don't trust the maps. All right, so we found number 42. And I looked at the map at the basic shape of number 41. We can't find number 41. 41, well, 41 is not exactly a friendly rock. So I decided to come over behind 42, because there's a rock, looked like it was cleared off at one time, and now it just has leaves on it. It doesn't have natural growth on it, like all the other stones. So I'm trying to see if this is rock number 41. Then we'll tell you what that one says. Well, I looked, there's nothing on this rock. We can't find rock number 41. But what it said was, Jebel Neff can talk much, but not to God. He does not know how to pray. He needs to get acquainted with God. Even now, are there many antichrists? Try the Spirit. And that's what it actually says. So he was making a threat to whomever Jebel Neff was. We got all the way down here. Here's 41, which should be, I don't know if you can see the blue tape red mark bench about 100 yards that way. Should be over there according to the map, but you know, we got writing cascading down the side. That's really neat. And we got more writing on the top. So here we're coming back to a bunch of smaller rambling rocks, if you will. No, they're not called rambling rocks, but this one here is a funny one. We got good old Jebel again. So this one here says, Methodism is great for Jebel Neff. It gives him a fat salary. A bishop must be, not given to filth, lucre, which is really funny. He really didn't like the Methodists, apparently. All right, so this one here, number 40. This one is a fun one. This one specifically says, and Balaam saddled his ass. He was riding on his ass. Balaam is the presiding elder. His fee is the saddle. The congregation is the ass. Paul never rode. This one got interesting. We went a little bit this way, a little bit that way, a little bit bad judgment on shapes and sizes. This looks older than that. This is dimple and this is line. This one, number 34. What does that say? Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid.
Yep. Ruth 3:9, and then it says, lie in wait, catch his wife.
Yeah, stalker. So here we have number 15. And that one comes right up against this guy, who is marked as number 16. He's got carving here and there and there, but here's the interesting stuff. Here he has it carved in the shape of a house. And the guess is that it probably was based on that one there, Altar Rock, where he actually built his house and lived on top. So all around altar rock. And there's more carvings. He did all of this stuff in 1 year. Just 1 year. He came out here and said, I'm going to take this piece of wood and I'm going to graffiti the snot out of it with religious sayings and personal bashings of people and threats. Let's go a little further down the trail. So which ones are we're looking for? 24?
24, 25, and 26 are all dedication rocks.
Dedication rocks to the scourge, to death of children, and what else? Delivering or deliverance? So like deliver unto me kind of thing?
It just says delivering.
Delivering what? All right, he's marking Daniel on this one. Another nice big one. Again, there's over 500. We're not here for the 500. We're just here to give you an idea of a lot of these rocks. It's really neat. You ought to come out to the park. I'm in no way endorsing anybody or anything, but it's neat to see. It's a perfect example of who we once were, and the different types of things that we choose to keep to remember and call lots of different stuff. I call what this guy did graffiti, because it's no different than graffiti. He left his mark behind of who he was and what he thought was important, and quite honestly destroyed the beauty of a whole lot of really nice rocks. But at the same time, he left his mark, and it's interesting to see. He has an interesting story too. I'm not here to judge the mental stability or the fervent religious devotion expressed by Douglas Stallman. That's for you to decide. But what I will tell you is that regardless of what he believed, nobody had any right to question his sanity based on his non-malevolent expressions of speech, nor his choice of religious belief systems, especially not in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, where the very first founding rule in 1682 was based on being born with certain natural rights and privileges of freedom, specifically stated as religious freedom for all and the freedom to express oneself without indemnification. So important was this rule that eventually made its way into our Constitution under the Bill of Rights as the First Amendment in 1791. Well, I hope you enjoyed this visit to the Scripture Rocks of Pennsylvania. I'll see you on the next video.